And welcome along to Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle. Thanks a lot for taking us along wherever you're going, whatever you may be doing. Thanks a lot for taking Indiana Sports Beat along for the ride. Hope your day is off to a good one. Let's hope we can get it finished off pretty well. Justin Kalen, high top, the Crew Chiefs box.
That's right.
Big night last night. A lot of basketball games, college basketball back kind of in full force. Indiana on the court. Nice win over Illinois. We'll get to all that. A lot to hear from Archie Miller, the players. We've got a lot to get to today. Todd Leary's on the show, as usual. Looking forward to talking to Todd. Always a great time. Before we get too deep, let's get to the headlines with Justin.
All right, here are your headlines for this Friday, January 4th, brought to you by Billy Joe's Gas and Food Mart, located on Highway 150 in Floyd's Knobs. Indiana basketball wins last night 73-65 over Illinois. Next up, Michigan on Sunday. IU women also in play on Sunday versus number 15 Michigan State. NFL playoffs start tomorrow. You have the Colts in action at 4:30 versus the Texans, and the college football championship is Monday night. Those are your headlines for this Friday, January 4th, brought to you by Billy Joe's Gas and Food Mart, located on Highway 150 in Floyd's Knobs.
Not a lot of headlines.
Not a lot going on.
Slow night.
Well, there's a lot of good games, but not headline-worthy games.
Let's see. Who was some of the other games in action last night? I'm trying to just...
Purdue, I know, wiped the floor with Iowa.
Not a surprise. Man, I think Iowa is going to take a step back this year.
They were in the top 25.
Yeah, they're just not... they're not really impressing me. Thus far, I guess I should say. They just don't seem to have that same mystique they had last year. But what was the score on that game?
86-70. But it was not that close. Iowa made it closer at the end. Purdue was up 26, 27 points almost the whole night.
Well, we'll see. It'd be interesting to see how that game plays out in reverse fashion.
Yeah.
Of course, as Justin mentioned, Indiana winner last night, 73-65 over the Illini of Illinois. Indiana goes to 3-0 on Big Ten play, 12-2 overall.
Whatever works, I guess.
What do you mean?
I was not impressed last night.
You know what? I'm coming to grips with the fact that I've got to alter. I think expectations need to be altered. What, and not looking to pick, but what were you not impressed with?
I don't really know that there was one thing particularly that I didn't much care for. It was not the game I was expecting going in. I didn't think they were very sharp offensively. They had a bunch of careless turnovers, which we talked about on the show yesterday. That might be a situation with the defense that Illinois plays, but thank God for Indiana. Illinois is horrible. Couldn't hit a shot, or Indiana probably loses that game last night.
Well, I don't know if you can say they couldn't hit a shot. They couldn't hit a three-point shot.
Yeah.
Between the two teams, they were a combined 10 of 40 for a cool, crisp 25%. That's both teams in the aggregate. Now, that's raising Indiana's up a little bit.
Yeah.
They couldn't throw it in the ocean from behind the arc. 2 of 12, 16.7%. Pretty putrid.
Yeah.
But Illinois was 8 of 28. They hoisted up 28 three-pointers. Only hit them 8 of them, 28%. But Indiana shoots pretty well overall. Again, 48%. But more importantly, they shot well at the free throw line.
Yeah.
And that was huge because Illinois does two things. They turn you over. They really they're one of the best in the country at forcing turnovers. Indiana actually did a pretty damn good job against that last night. They had 15 turnovers, a little higher than you would like to see normally, but against a team that specializes in getting turnovers, that's not bad at all, especially when you look at the other side of the ledger and the fact that Illinois had 21 turnovers. Indiana forced Illinois into 21 turnovers, and then I'll take that a little bit further. Illinois only managed to get 10 points off of Indiana's turnovers, while Indiana managed 22. So there's a 12-point swing. There's a margin of victory. I mean, not exactly, but there's there's where your margin of victory comes from. And that's huge.
Yeah.
Especially, again, against a team that specializes in getting turnovers, to reverse the field on them. Because one of the other things they do is they send people to the free throw line. They foul a lot. Well, Indiana took 35 free throws. 35 to 12 for Illinois.
15 for Romeo alone.
Yeah. That's because he was attacking the rim.
Yeah.
And they could not stop him. They had no answer for him. They could only hope to contain him.
Needed Romeo last night.
Well,
as the first win that I could confidently say that Indiana needed Romeo.
Well, I can tell you another thing is that Rob Finney's absence stood out a little bit more last night, I think.
Yeah.
It was kind of obvious, but Devontae didn't have a bad game. He didn't shoot the ball very well. He was 3 of 11, 0 of 3 behind the arc, 2 of 2 at the free throw line. He had 8 points. Indiana had 5 players with 8 or more points, all 5 of their starters. That's a good effort, especially when you're getting 28 and 15. 28, 15, 8, 8, and 9. That's not a bad stat line. That's actually pretty balanced. Now, the sad thing is the 4 bench players that played, 3 of them, granted, didn't play much. No, Zach McRoberts did, but they offered nothing in the area of scoring. Deron Davis had 5 points. He did take 2 shots, hit them both. Other than that, the other 3, goose eggs.
Well, and that wasn't until the second half. Indiana went into halftime, 0 bench points.
Yeah, they're not getting. That's a little. No, it's a lot worrisome. Now that's worrisome to me. When you go on the road in the Big Ten, you are not going to play 5 on 10. They've got to get production from somebody else. We were saying that earlier about a third scorer. Well, if you want to be elite, you have to have certain things. This team is not elite. Now, they're doing good, though. I don't want to harp on them. Great win. They're 12-2. Doing fine. But I'm talking as far as moving to that next level, they got to hit 3-pointers. This is not a 3-point shooting team. Not sure this team can be at that level. I'm not sure how good this team can really be. I mean, they're good. Don't get me wrong. I don't know where they're going to end up. I think they're going to end up being a 4 or 5 seed. It's kind of where they are right now on which bracketology is a joke right now anyway. But it is. It's the dumbest thing in the world. All these people, we got bracketology. Really? Give me a break. Bracketology. It's crap. It's frickin' the beginning of January. You don't know jack. All you can do is look at the net ratings. Gives you a pretty good idea.
That's right.
That's all you got to do.
One area where it really kind of concerned me last night is maybe it shouldn't have. I'll let you try to talk me off the ledge because it wasn't an issue before the Christmas break, I don't believe. But when Illinois threw that zone out, Indiana looked like they had never seen a zone before. I mean, they had no idea how to attack that thing, and that was kind of worrisome to me, which I don't remember that being the case in the early part of the season.
Well, they switched on them. I don't know that they were prepared for that. They switched to that. So
you always had to be prepared for it, though.
Sure.
I mean, teams can switch defenses.
Hey, that's part of the learning, man. Yeah. That's part of entering conference play and seeing all these things that you're gonna deal with. It's part of the learning curve. It's exactly what it is. But defensively, I think they did a pretty daggone good job.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, again, 3-point shooting, they held them in check. They're a good 3-point shooting team. 8 of 28, 28%. Yeah, I'll take that all day long. In the first half, Indiana held them to 3 of 12. They got a few more the second half, obviously, but some of those were desperation, really trying to get back into the game. But even from a field goal percentage, Indiana, in the second half, Indiana really clamped down. Indiana was trying to find their way long through the first half.
Yeah.
It was just like they were just down, kind of the way they always are, slow starting. But their shooting is what it is. I don't think you're going to see a big variation off of their shooting average each game, which that's because those shots are all coming close in at the rim. Romeo's driving the ball. Juwan's posting up. Deron Davis is posting up. You mix in some jump shots in there, but for the most part, that's why. So that success there will continue. I think, and they can get away with beating a lot of teams like this. You're not going to get away with beating Michigan by running 5 guys in there doing all the work. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, no, I do like this team moving forward, though. I mean, last night,
absolutely,
I'm not going to try to stick on and harp on last night too much. I mean, it was not comfortable.
I don't think it was
game.
that bad, to be honest with you. I mean, it's a Big Ten game. It's a conference game. They're going to be tough. They were, a 12.5-point favorite?
My thing was, you haven't played a game in 11 days. So
that's another thing.
I know, and that's probably why they looked rusty. They didn't look like I thought they were going to look. But at the same time, my expectation going in was, you all haven't played a game in almost 2 weeks.
They don't
You're
have
going to be
Rob
ready
Finney.
to come out.
They don't have their starting point guard.
Yeah, and that can't be understated or overstated.
And they're not going to have him at Michigan. Finney's not going to play up there.
Yeesh.
It's going to be tough. Hey, we got a big show, as always, here on this Friday. We appreciate you taking us along here on Indiana Sports Beats. Todd Leary's along, and we've got plenty more to get to. Stay tuned. We'll be back right after this.
I've got $100 smoking in my billfold. I know I ought to save it, but it's burning a hole right through my pocket and into my skin. Come Monday morning, I'll be broke again. It's finally Friday.
If you're a homeowner and have storm damage to your roof, you want a hometown contractor you can count on and trust. Brooks Roofing of New Albany has been doing quality work since 2006. Check out their work for yourself at brooksroofingin.com. No job is too big or too small, commercial or residential. Brooks Roofing is probably working in your neighborhood right now. Visit brooksroofingin.com or call 812-868-ROOF. That's 812-868-ROOF. Brooks Roofing, the protection you need when nature strikes.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle here on Big X Sports Radio, also on indianasportsbeat.com. Make sure you can find us. Hope you're having a great day. Dustin Doprak's on the program today from The Athletic. Indiana taking on Illinois tonight at home. Simon Scott Assembly Hall in Bloomington as they get back to Big Ten play, is currently with a 2-0 mark. Illinois not the toughest matchup that they're going to face this year, that's for certain. 21-ranked Indiana Hoosiers returns to action tonight after an 11-day break. Pacers have been playing well as well, especially since the return of Victor Oladipo. Our good friend Grant Absinthe is on with us now. Grant, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Great, brother. Pacers doing pretty well. They really, I know that it kind of started before Victor Oladipo came out, but they've been winning.
Yeah, they've been doing pretty well lately. They've been doing a darn good job of moving the basketball, and they found a lot of success when they have moved the ball. They have like a 42-8 record since the start of the Oladipo era when they get over 25 assists, and they've been averaging about 27.5, or averaged about 27.5 in December.
Yeah, and I noticed that they've been doing this with efficient play as well. I mean, the numbers that bear out. They've been very efficient in this last stretch.
Absolutely. You know, they've had some nights where 8 players scoring double figures. You know, they out of like 9 in their their rotation, and they've been doing it with rock solid defense throughout the month as well. And it'll be interesting to see if their play can hold up whenever they play tougher teams. But they definitely took care of what was on their schedule, with only 3 losses coming by a combined total of 5 points.
And looking down the road now and kind of getting away from the season, and I know that the teams can't really, they can't plan on who they're going to pick in the draft and things like that, but how big would being able to get a Romeo Langford be for the Indiana Pacers? And would his style of play not really work well with Victor, I think?
I think the main thing is having a guy like another playmaker alongside Oladipo would be good, but ideally having more of a reliable perimeter shooter would probably be the preferable thing. But I'm interested to see kind of what Romeo can continue to show as an NBA prospect to close the rest of the season out, because with conference play getting going, and hopefully the tournament, it'll be interesting to kind of see if he can continue to build off of the start to the season that he's had, and kind of show a thing or two more to as some prospects do as the year goes on.
Yeah, the only knock on, say, Romeo had been his 3-point shooting was not exactly stellar this season, but he is such a formidable scorer. It got me to thinking, and I was looking at some NBA guys like Russell Westbrook, who is one of the most prolific scorers in the history of the game, triple-doubles here and there, all over the place. But I noticed his 3-point shooting right now, he's at like 23 or 4%. That's not something he's doing great at right now either, but man, that dude is someone you'd sure want on your team.
Yeah, for sure. The main thing is that having enough opportunity to go around as a playmaker in the sequence or the parts of the game that Westbrook thrives at. Since that there was a struggle to find balance between Westbrook and Oladipo when he was during that 1 year they were in Oklahoma City together. But I think obviously Westbrook is a completely different usage rate compared to a guy like Romeo, so it'd be probably considerably more cohesive and easier to make work than how Oladipo's been utilized over the last 2 seasons, compared to what he was or how he was used in Oklahoma City.
In the month of December, the Pacers, I think they went 12-3. That's a pretty daggone good run for any team. But a team that's fighting to get to the top of the Eastern Conference for a playoff berth, that's a good start.
Definitely, it was the best record during December, and they had the top defense in December as well, and number 2 net rating, and it was definitely like they didn't play a whole lot of tough games, but you have to play who's in front of you, and they definitely did. Aside from that one, arguably that one loss to the Cavaliers, that could have been could have gone very well the other way than it did, with the failed no call by the officials. They could have very well had fewer than the 3 losses that they had. But it'll be interesting, as we've been saying, kind of like how they can perform against winning teams, because that was something that they struggled with last season. But so far I believe they have a 6-9 record against those teams, and they haven't had to face a whole lot of them. But it'll be interesting to see how they handle those challenges.
Yeah, I noticed they were one of just 5 teams, along with the Warriors, the Rockets, the Bucks, and the Spurs, to post double-digit wins in the final month of 2018. And it says they were best month since last March. But the Pacers, we talked before about what they need to do to get to this point where they seem like that they're getting there. Is this just a team gelling better and players playing better with each other? Because they haven't added any different pieces, but they certainly are playing better. and it seems like this all started when Oladipo went out and has continued upon his return.
Definitely, I think they are improving as a unit together as kind of the months go on this season in a variety of areas. They're noticeably trusting each other more on offense, and I think some of their young players, like Miles Turner, I think they're actually getting better as the season goes along, and that's kind of helped them without having to necessarily add to their roster. And I think even they've seen improvement from guys like Bojan Bogdanovic, who've been able to take on more of a scoring responsibility when Oladipo's out of lineup, and they haven't necessarily seen their efficiency fall off significant margin. Like last year there was a struggle for Bogdanovic in particular. He had a 2-month period after the start of December where he shot around, I believe, like 30% from three, but he's still executing, and I think guys like Collison have picked up their efficiency as well during December. So I think they're a lot of these guys are continuing to improve at the roles that they've had. And, it's starting to come together, too, with Oladipo letting the game come to him within the flow and trusting his teammates more, too.
And we've talked about even today, but before as well, then the need to add another scorer. But with the play is going as well as it is right now, are they apt to still try to do that? Because I think they still have to get to that elite level. This may get them to where they are right now, but to me, I see them. This is them topping out from a talent aspect. As I look around the league, around the conference at least, they've got to do something to catch up to say Boston or Philadelphia or Toronto.
I think it definitely would help their chances of going genuinely deep in the like the postseason, like a Eastern Conference Finals run or a run to the NBA Finals, to add another dynamic talent like that we talked about in earlier conversations on your show. I think if the main thing is if they can continue to receive growth from guys like Miles Turner and see kind of where they're at as a team, I think they could potentially develop their way into being a conference finals appearance contender. I think it'd be challenging to win unless they can continue to see unpredictable growth. I will give them credit because I did not expect them to be an elite defense this season, and so far they've really kind of taken the next step in that area and have been pretty impressive. So maybe they can continue to grow on the offensive end of the floor, in key areas by trusting each other. But I do agree. I think ideally putting your best position of going deep in the Eastern Conference is definitely by adding another dynamic talent.
Yeah, because the Pacers have continued to rise in these power rankings, but like I said, I just think that where they are now, they're about to plateau, which it's a great place to plateau, but it's not because you're not at that top. And I think to really get over that level, they're going to have to do something. Or they're going to have to add another star to that roster.
Yeah, I think I can definitely see that. I think right now when you look at the other teams that are kind of directly below them with Philadelphia and Boston, Boston has a lot of talent. They haven't been as good as I thought they'd be. And, I kind of don't think their finished product will be as good as I initially thought, but they'll still be a tough team to beat in a 7-game series with their defense. And, Gordon Hayward, he had a 30-point game, 30-plus point game, I should say, I believe just this last night. And that was his best performance of the season. So if, guys like, Hayward can, start to, play or to their original expectation, after that injury, then that puts Boston in a different spot than I was thinking about them even just a week ago. in Philadelphia, I think they're just going to continue to adjust to having Jimmy Butler around, and having a guy like that in a playoff series definitely goes a long way too. So I definitely see the opinion of adding another dynamic talent, because I think I'm right there right now too. But I guess the main thing is that it'll be interesting to kind of see how things play out with the development of the team, because they've surprised me quite a bit in some areas so far, and it'll just be kind of interesting to see whenever they play those better teams if their improvement can continue to sustain.
Grant Abseth, I can't thank you enough. Make sure you check him out at Grant Abseth on Twitter. Also, the Kokomo Tribune, the Pacers beat writer. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Look forward to talking to you next week.
Oh, yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
You bet. Have a great weekend. Grant Abseth from the Kokomo Tribune, our Pacers beat writer. Brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sellersburg, taking care of Southern Indiana's dental needs for over 30 years. Let doctors Jay and Roger Reynolds take care of your family's needs. They certainly take care of mine, and they do an unbelievable job. Have you been in to see the dentist lately?
Negative.
I need to get in there. I'm going to call Reynolds Family Dentistry and make you an appointment today. As should you.
May or may not show up.
Hey, we've got plenty more coming up on the show today. Like I said, Todd Leary's in our second hour. Make sure you stay along. We've got plenty more. We've got a lot of basketball to talk about. Indiana Sports Beat back after this.
Got a problem with your big truck? Kentuckiana's premier truck center is here to help. For over 30 years, truck drivers and fleet operators have depended on their great service center off I-65 in Clarksville. And now you can get the same level of service, repairs, and parts selection that's been offered for generations and save on bridge tolls with their new location on the Outer Loop in South Louisville. They're an authorized Mack, Volvo, and Hino dealer and service center, but they service all makes and models of trucks. Kentuckiana's premier truck center.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sellersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat as we wrap the week up here today. Joined now by our good friend Drew Davis from Peaks.com. Drew, how are you, sir?
I'm doing good, Jim. How about you?
Great. Seems like I just left you a few minutes ago. That was at Assembly Hall. Oh, yeah, that wasn't that long ago. But good win for the Hoosiers last night as they knock off the Illini 73-65 to go 3-0 in the Big Ten. Good start for them. Not a good start for them last night, unfortunately, though.
Yeah, it was kind of a weird game, honestly. I didn't feel like either team really played well at all. I felt like both teams were sloppy. Seemed like there was a lot of times where both teams found themselves, or maybe even more so Illinois found themselves at the end of the shot clock, but Indiana did a better job of navigating situations like that. But you look at the game, and the teams combined for, I think, somewhere around 35 turnovers, which are a lot of times to throw the ball away. Indiana only had 14 to Illinois' 21, which, anytime you can be +7 in the turnover differential, that's a big deal. And, I'm thinking back to Romeo Langford having a career night. His one skill that he has is that's the best skill he has is driving the basketball and getting to the rim, finishing around the rim, and that just happens to be something that Illinois is just really, really bad at defending. And so whenever he has opportunities to play Illinois, I expect him to have big games because it's a recipe for success for Romeo, and that's exactly what he did last night with 28 points. And obviously his shot was struggling a little bit, and he didn't hang his head on that, and he just continued to work, and he got stuff done. And then Juwan Morgan had another solid performance, another double-double. It's exactly what you need out of Juwan, and he battled tough with Georgie from the big fellow from Illinois, and they were pretty physical for much of the game, and Juwan ended up I felt like taking that battle and After those two, the thing that was really interesting is I felt like there was a drop off to the third option, and there really wasn't one guy that stood out or separated himself. And I think that's kind of where you miss Rob Fennessy and everything that he does for this Indiana team. Whether it's handling the basketball or his leadership or his defense, or his timely shooting. I think that was a loss last night when they don't have Fennessy on the floor. I think the loss of not having him is pretty obvious on the effects it has on the offense, because the offense just doesn't run nearly as smooth without him.
Yeah, Indiana, if you had to pick something out that was the best attribute last night, definitely was their defense. 6 forced shot clock violations on defense, a quote-unquote school record, but that's a high number of shot clock violations to get on somebody. And you talked about the turnovers. Indiana they had 15, but Illinois does such a good job of forcing turnovers. They're one of the best in the country. I think that, to me, that's an acceptable amount of turnovers. There's always 4 or 5 that are just unforced, and that's the thing. Those are the ones that bother you. But defensively, a great effort by Indiana last night. They really, and speaking of a great effort, Trent Frazier, they're Illinois' number 1 player coming in. I think he averaged like 16 points a game. He's shooting 43% behind the arc. But last night, Indiana, I remember looking, there was about 7 minutes to go. He hadn't hit a three-pointer yet. He'd only taken 3, but had not even hit one. He'd only end up hitting 2 on the night, but a great job on him as well.
Yeah, Indiana's guards did a nice job against Trent, and just getting up into him, making him uncomfortable, and I think that kind of just disrupted him and threw him off his flow, and that led to a tough night from Trent Frazier. And the other thing I saw defensively that impressed me was Romeo switching on to Io to Sumu later in the game, and I felt like Io had an edge and quickness and potentially take him off the bounce, but I thought Romeo did a really good job of just being able to contain him and not let him go by him. And I thought that was impressive to see him, as being a 6'6" guy with a little more strength to switch down to Io DeSumo, who's got a little more speed, and guard him like that. I thought that was a good sign for Romeo. And he's been just, the last couple games, I feel like he's really starting to come into his own, starting to get more and more comfortable each time he takes the floor for Indiana, and I think that could be a scary sign for opponents moving forward.
Some of the high schools are in action. Big game last night. Oh, sorry. I'm so used to using a headset. I've been stopped using that, and then I stand up, start walking around, and forget that I'm not at the microphone. A lot of prospects in play again this week. High school action, some big games. Louisville Ballard played Floyd Central. Floyd Central won that game last night. New Albany Jeffersonville tonight, a huge rivalry, goes way, way back. But you've got a lot of games that you're going to be looking at this weekend, some prospects as well.
Yeah, and you look at, Centerville and Carmel will, clash as well. So, Trace Jackson Davis, the Indiana signee, versus John Michael Malloy, plays for Carmel, and he's a Butler signee. So, those two are UIBL teammates for Indy Heat, a team that made it to the PGM this year. And I think that's a matchup that will be interesting. And then you have Macaulay taking on Armand Franklin, and that should be a game that Cathedral kind of has their way with. But nonetheless, Armand Franklin will be in action tonight. And then today you have Keon Brooks versus Bishop Gorman at the Cancer Research Classic, and that'll get him started there. And then he'll play Montverde tomorrow, which will be a rematch between the number 1 team, and I want to say Montverde's number 3 now. So that'll be a rematch. It's tough to beat a team twice, and the thing that's interesting is, even if Lou does beat them, on Saturday, they might have to play Montverde again in the Dix Nationals during March, and it'll be even harder if they have to beat a team for a third time. So we'll have to see what happens. I'm looking forward to that matchup, because the first time those two teams played is a really tough, hard-fought game. It wasn't most pretty basketball you see on the offensive end, but both teams just played hard, and I felt like that there was a lot of talent on the floor, and those guys just really want to win that game, and it made for a really interesting matchup.
Our crack producer Justin pointed out that Lalu's number one in the country right now.
Yeah, Lalu's playing some great basketball, and I talked to a high school coach last night that was at the IU game, and they got to play Lalu coming up, and he joked to me. He goes, "Yeah, they only have a second McDonald's All-American for me to figure out how to slow down this year with Isaiah and Keon." Those two are a really good duo, and it's hard to slow down Isaiah Stewart for a lot of high school teams and prep schools across the country just because he's so big. It's hard to move him off that block, and he's got good skill and touch for a guy of his size. And Isaiah's been having a really nice season since coming back from injury, and Keon, who I feel like has made some major strides in this game. He's grown as his shot more outward. His three-point shots falling at a more consistent rate this year. He's always had great touch from the mid-range, so I figured that would come, and I think that's something we'll continue to see progress over time. I feel like he's gotten better at putting the ball on the floor as well. He doesn't have that kind of hesitation when he puts the ball on the floor as much. It's kind of he can rip it and go now. He's gotten more compact on when he goes to make a move, and I think that's certainly a positive sign. And for me, I've really been impressed with him. I think he might be, maybe at this point, I think could say top 10, top 8 player in the country, at least in my opinion. And I think he's a guy that's only going to continue to get better because he has a lot of upside.
And talk about Lalu, that's Lalu Muir from up north. It's not a regular high school, so they don't get to play in the IHSA tournament, but it does have some great players. And Keon Brooks and Isaiah Stewart. Keon Brooks, of course, a top target of Indiana. His commitment is being waited upon by many, many people, wondering if that's going to happen this month, which it could be only a few weeks away.
Yeah, at the earliest, maybe mid-January, but with Keon right now, it's kind of wait and see because he's been so busy the last couple, 4 or 5 weeks, going to Hawaii, then going to South Dakota, and now at the West Virginia. And I think after they go to West Virginia, they slow down for a little bit, so that should give him some time once he gets back home to kind of decompress and think through some things. And I think he wants to weigh the factors of each school and sit down. And, he's got to obviously go into decision-making mode, which has not happened yet. So we'll just have to wait and see with Keon right now because it could happen in mid-January, but it could be longer than that, which we'll just have to wait and see.
Absolutely looking forward to that. Now, and on Sunday, coming up, Indiana with a huge game as they travel to Ann Arbor, Michigan to take on the number 2 ranked Wolverines. That's just a tough matchup no matter how you cut it.
Yeah, there's going to be nothing easy about going to the Chrysler Center and facing off a Michigan team that's, one of the best in the country, and, you're going to have to play better than you did against Illinois if you want to have a chance to win that game. And I think Indiana will, but I'll be honest with you, I don't see any way Indiana beats Michigan on Sunday. Michigan's playing some really good basketball. The thing about Michigan this year that's different than the years past, I feel like, is they really defend well, but they still have that good spacing and flow on the offensive end. And, D-Line's got a really nice group with 2 wings out there, and Ignas Brzezikas, the Canadian freshman, and Charles Matthews, the Kentucky transfer, who's, played really well for them the last 2 years. And then you have a guy like Xavier Simpson who makes that team go. I think he only averages 5 points and maybe 5 assists or rebounds, something like that. But he's just kind of the engine of that team. His effort on defense leads the way and gets them going on that end. And his ability to handle the basketball has been a big bonus for them on the offensive end. And, he's a guy that's really important to them. And obviously they don't have a Mo Wagner anymore, so that there's a bit of a different look in the front court with guys like Livers and Teskey, some others. So, obviously they don't have the ability to do what Mo Wagner does, and Mo Wagner was an incredible player at Michigan, so that's not to take anything away from them, but In terms of spacing the floor, those guys, are as good as Romeo was at that. Don't shoot it nearly as well, but this is a really, really good basketball team. And I think if Indiana is able to go in there and at least be competitive, I think that's a good sign of things to come moving forward.
Absolutely. Rob Finney is someone they will not have with them. I don't know if he'll be there or not, but he will not be playing on Sunday. And I think that his absence was noticed definitely last night. I think that was part of the stagnation that they had. But they just don't seem quite as smooth without Rob Finney in there.
No, not at all. And, you saw a couple times late where Indiana struggled to break that pressure, and there was way too much dribbling and not enough passing. And I think with Rob in there, things would have looked a little different. And I think that his impact on the team is it's huge. He might be one of the most important players in the program right now. Just everything about Rob Finney has been, just exactly a coach's dream so far. His IQ for the game, his feel for the game are unmatched. And then you have, obviously his defensive efforts, which is really, really good. And, obviously he's a little behind on offense from the other two categories, but he's still a serviceable player, hits shots, handles the ball for you, keeps the ball moving. He'll timely shots is another big thing. And, he's a guy that Indiana really, really needs to get back.
Absolutely. Getting back to the recruiting, Justin Kalen told me that yesterday Trace Jackson Davis sent out a tweet with some googly eyes addressed toward Keon Brooks and Trendon Watford and said, when are you guys going to quit playing?
Yeah, I saw that.
Goading him along a little bit. He's not trying to recruit Trendon Watford, is he, you think?
I'm sure Coach Trace is trying to recruit Trendon, but at the end of the day, I'll be very shocked if Trendon doesn't, go to either Alabama or Memphis.
Right. Between those, where do you think he's going to end up? I'm torn because I think that he's going to end up at Memphis playing for Penny Hardaway, but his former AAU teammate, that guard that Indiana was looking at, I forget his name, but he ended up committing to Alabama, I think.
Yeah, Kyra Lewis Jr., he reclassified up. He's one of the younger players in Division I basketball, having a solid season. I know he's been working hard on Trendon. But you got to think, Trendon down there is kind of a huge deal in Alabama. It's a 3-time Mr. Basketball, I believe, maybe 2-time. I'd always wanted at least twice, but he's one of the best players to come through their state in the history of Alabama basketball. And Avery Johnson wants to keep him at home really, really bad. And I know Alabama has to compare him. And right now, between Alabama and Memphis, I think it's a coin flip. I think it's too close to call at this point, but they have a good relationship with Mike Miller from Memphis, the assistant as well. That was something that was big in that recruitment. Christian played for Mike Miller's AAU team growing up, so they already knew him. And I think it's one of those two schools. I think both those schools have done a really good job of recruiting him, and we'll just have to wait and see. And over the next couple of months, maybe or weeks, to see who kind of separates himself out of those two schools.
And back to the preps, Indiana. Anybody that is kind of jumping up that's making a name for himself that we kind of haven't really talked about before?
I'd say in 2019, right now, no one's done that since it's just kind of late, and they got their guys zoned in on. But 2020, Anthony Leal's been having a solid start to his season. He shot it well. It's kind of a more advanced version of what he was in the spring, and he's gotten bigger and stronger, obviously. And he really had a solid tournament down there at Richmond, and led South to, I want to say, a third-place finish. South's having a real nice season. And then, you look across the board 2020, and a guy that's was putting up ridiculous numbers to start the season was Ethan Morton from out Pennsylvania. Some of the numbers, when I was doing the Monday prep report, some of the numbers he was putting up in some of those games were just ridiculous. Like, he would go for 40 points, I think 15 rebounds or more, and then, maybe 7 assists or so, a couple steals. And you look at that and you think, dang, that was an impressive game right there. And I know he's a big-time player in Pennsylvania, and he's a really smart player. So I think he's, at least numbers-wise, kind of a guy that's jumped off the page.
I'm looking at the AP. I'm looking at the AP poll right now, Drew, and I'm wondering right now, and there are 7 Big Ten teams ranked in that poll, but I'm wondering next week if they're going to have just 3 because 4 of those teams are 21 through 25, and all 4 of those, with the exception of Indiana, lost last night, I think. And Indiana's got a tough challenge ahead on Sunday. Man, you could see half the Big Ten fall out of the top 25.
Yeah, but I think that kind of just speaks for the parity in the league this year and just how tough the league is this year. And there's going to be no just walk in the parks in the Big Ten this year. Everything you get, you're going to earn. You're going to have to fight. You're going to have to scratch. You're going to have to claw to win games.
Wisconsin lost at home last night to Minnesota.
Yeah. Like Minnesota, for example. I'm glad you said that because, Minnesota's a team that I feel like is kind of flown under the radar early. They're a team that has had some impressive results early on. I think they only have 2 losses or so. But Richard Pitino, he's got the program to bounce back after a very, very tough season for them last year. They got a freshman in, Turu, and they got I can't think of his last name. Gabe Kalsher. Indiana looked at him, and he's been a solid addition as a freshman. And then you have guys like Amir Coffey and Jordan Murphy who are having really, really big seasons. I think Minnesota's a dangerous team in the Big Ten. I know Archie Miller said preseason that was his sleeper pick, and I kind of at first I was a little skeptical of that thought, but after watching them early in the season, they're a team that's kind of caught my eye. And I think they're a team that's going to be a lot more difficult to beat in the Big Ten than many thought heading into the season.
I agree, Drew. Drew Davis from Pigs.com, brother. I appreciate you very much, and we'll enjoy the high school games this weekend, and we look forward to watching Indiana take on Michigan on Sunday.
Yeah, and look forward to catching up with you on Monday after the Michigan game.
Sounds great. Have a great weekend, Drew. We appreciate you.
You too, man.
Drew Davis, Pigs.com, joins us each front end of each week. Brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sellersburg. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. They've been taking care of the family needs of Southern Indiana's families for over 30 years. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. We'll get Justin in there for an appointment set up today. Get your set up as well. But we've got plenty more coming back here. Todd Leary's on the show. Stay tuned. We're back right after this. This is Jim Coyle. When I'm not on the road covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 on the northeast side of I-65 at Veterans Parkway in Clarksville. Bring the team in for that post-win meal in the family dining area or just meet friends for happy hour. Bubba's has bold burgers, hand-tossed pizzas, mouth-watering wings, and a list of select local craft brewers for the coldest beer in town. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Burgers, pizza, beer.
We're coming to your city. Gonna play our guitars and sing you a country song. We'll all be flying higher than a jetliner. And if you want a little bang in your yin yang, come along.
Come on along. Indiana Sports Beat's on now. Jim Coyle sitting in with you. Hope your day is going well. Thanks a lot for taking us along wherever you're going, whatever you may be doing. Thanks a lot for taking Indiana Sports Beat along for the ride. Welcome in. Justin Kalen high atop the crew chief's box.
That's right.
We've got plenty to get to today. Indiana on the hardwood last night. Another win in the Big Ten as they go 3-0, beating Illinois. Todd Leary's on the show today as well. We've got plenty to talk about. Before we get to that, let's get to the headlines with Justin.
All right, here are your headlines for this Friday, January 4th, brought to you by Billy Joe's Gas and Food Mart, located on Highway 150 in Floyd's Knobs. IU wins 73-65 over Illinois last night in a tough game. Next up, Michigan on Sunday, number 2 team in the country. IU women also in play on Sunday as they host number 15 Michigan State. NFL playoffs start tomorrow. Colts in action at 4:30 at the Texans. And the College Football Championship set for Monday night as Alabama once again takes on Clemson. Those are your headlines for this January 4th, brought to you by Billy Joe's Gas and Food Mart, located on Highway 150 in Floyd's Knobs.
Hey, welcome back. Indiana on the road on the hardwood last night at home at Simon Scott Assembly Hall, Illinois. The latest victim as Indiana goes 3-0 in Big Ten play, which is going to come in handy because they hit the road now for a trip to Ann Arbor, Michigan on Sunday against the number 2 Wolverines, who are playing as good as anybody. They've received number 1 votes. That's a team that made it to the national championship game last year, and they're playing better this year.
Yeah,
they look better this year. But a great game last night for Indiana as they knock off Illinois. Romeo Langford, a career high, 28 points. Great night, shooting 8 of 13. More importantly, he was 11 of 15 at the free throw line. And Indiana as a team, a great job at the free throw line. Illinois does a lot of things, as I said previously. One of those things is causing a lot of turnovers normally. Indiana only was able to keep it to 15 turnovers last night. Normally that would be kind of high, but against this team it's not really bad, especially when the fact that Indiana forced Illinois into 21 turnovers, of which they were able to convert 20 into 22 points. So Indiana did a very good job defensively. Also 6 forced shot clock violations. 6 times Illinois could not get their shot off. I mean, that's just I'm thinking 2, maybe 3 is the max that I've ever seen. I mean, you just don't see it happen that often. 6 times in a game. Great job defensively. And carrying that across, Trent Frazier, Illinois' best player, I think he came into the game averaging 16 points a game, but I know he was shooting 43% behind the arc. Well, Indiana, there were 7 minutes to go, and I looked down, and Indiana had only allowed him to take 3 shots from deep. Didn't hit one of those. He would knock 2 of them down later, but only ended up 4 of 13 on the night. 2 of 8 behind the arc. That's a 43% shooter. Indiana does a great job on him. As a team, they held him to 3 of 12 in the first half.
And you asked Archie Miller about Trent Frazier after the game. Let's see what he had to say.
I thought he played a very solid game where he wasn't hunting shots early in the game. You could tell he was trying to run their offense and get guys involved. And then later in the game when he needed to sort of get going, I thought he was pretty aggressive. I also thought we did a decent job on him, just keeping him, for the most part in front of us. He only got 1 3 across half court off the dribble, which he loves to do late in the game as well. We stopped him early and didn't allow him to get to the line. But he's a really, really good player. I was really, really impressed, to be honest with you, with Georgie and Io. Those 2 guys are 2 really, really good freshmen in our conference. Those guys are going to be a problem come February and March as they get their experience in.
Coach Archie Miller talking about Illinois and their star players. We'll hear more from Archie and talking about Romeo and his career night, 28 points last night. Juwan Morgan he just had another double-double, that's all.
No biggie.
15 and 10. It's just like brought the lunch pail, baby. Brought the lunch pail. He started the night off. He hit a 3 from the top of the key, about 2 feet behind the stripe, and just was kind of just shaking his head, walking backwards, like, no, it's on tonight. But just another great night. And then he worked. He did a lot of work down low. He backed some guys down, and did a great job in the paint. Indiana overall did a good job in the paint as they win that battle 38-28 over Illinois. Which Illinois has got some good young players. Georgie, I'm not even going to think about saying his last name. Georgie B. They're forward, 8 of 10 on the block, man, 18 points. He was their leading scorer last night. But Indiana overall does a really good job, especially with Rob Finney still being out with that concussion. He will not play Sunday against Michigan. Speaking of Sunday against Michigan, where are you watching the game? Because we're going to be at Bubba's 33. Make sure you come on out. It's going to be fun. Hopefully Indiana can Give them a game. We were. I'm not going to the Michigan game this year. We went up there last year, but man, it's a tough place to play right now. Beeline is a great coach. He's just got them playing very, very well. So we'll see what Indiana can do there. But last night their defensive effort was pretty good. You certainly can't fault that. And then make sure you want to hit us up on the text line. You can do so at 812-269-6367. Comments, quotes, questions, whatever. Todd Leary's on the show today. If you got a question for Todd, we'll use that then. So whatever you'd like. But hit us up, 812-269-6367 there for any questions, comments. Looking forward to that. A lot of other things going on last night. Bowl, the son of Manute Bowl.
Ugh.
Out for the season, man. A stress fracture in his foot. He plays for Oregon. He's a phenomenal freshman, but his year is over, unfortunately. Then there was some action last night. Scott Padgett. You remember Scott Padgett? He's the coach at Samford. I think that's down in Georgia. An ex-girlfriend whose sister went to Samford. So that's Georgia, I think. I think it's in Georgia. Yeah, anyway. But in this game, there was like I don't know, something happened, but I think there was...
Apparently the refs were just awful all night long.
Yeah, and I think that Padgett maybe had said something, yelled something, I don't know. But I saw the video, and this referee there, on a timeout, he just goes scooting over there, not running, but a very brisk walk. But it's hilarious. But let's hear it in the mortal words of Scott Padgett.
It wasn't coming to nothing. I literally said, "Are you stepping to me right now?" I mean, that's what I said. I mean, like that's what I think's hilarious is in the world. It's not a real world out there because a guy like that stepping to me is not realistic. I mean, if we're out on the street, he's running the other way just if he sees me walking by. You know, not that this ain't right. I mean, I'm 6'9", probably 280 right now. Not a lot of people step to me. You know, so I think it's kind of. I think it was kind of an unprofessional move.
Yeah, kind of an unprofessional move. I'll agree with that, but I bet I wonder if he's going to get fined for those comments. Let's talk about a ref stepping to him. Stepping to me. That's funny. That's just hilarious. But it's true. He's like, man, who are you?
Well, yeah, I mean, the referee should never barge into a huddle on the side.
Did you watch the video?
I saw the video.
Yeah, it was like, whoa.
I mean, the other two refs walked to the middle of the floor, probably like they're supposed to do, and this guy just barging right into the huddle. No good.
No bueno. No bueno. But a lot of other games in the Big Ten, or a few games in the Big Ten last night. Michigan, Indiana's next opponent, they handled Penn State 68-55. It was PU over Iowa, 86-60. Iowa, man, they're not what I thought. And not that I thought that they were great, but I thought that they were going to be a solid middle Big Ten team. Not seeing it right now. I've moved them to the bottom of the middle. They're below Purdue right now. And Minnesota moves themselves up. Huge win. Minnesota goes on the road into the Kohl Center up in Madison, Wisconsin, comes out with a win over the Badgers. Man, that's big.
That's not an easy place to play.
Hell no, it's not, and that's a great win. Yeah. You talk about something that's going to look good on a resume later. That's a quad one win, baby. You go on the road, beat a top 20 team. That's huge. And Minnesota is a team that is not ranked. I was talking about the top 25. You're going to see a lot of movement in the top 25 involving the Big Ten right now because 21, 22, 24, 25 are from the Big Ten. Nebraska I think they just lost yesterday.
They did.
Who'd they lose to?
Maryland.
They lost to Maryland.
So Maryland might
day
jump
before
in.
Yesterday. Maryland's going to jump in probably. Minnesota, I have to look at their record to see if they jump in. And I think that's what you're going to see a lot of this year. You're going to see a lot of Big Ten teams that are just cycling. Getting recycled in the top 25 down there because you're not going to get far. It's going to be difficult for those teams to climb up in the rankings enough so that you can sustain a loss because you're going to get a loss every other week playing in the Big Ten. It's just nearly impossible. So you got to get up high enough. If you get up to 15th, 16th, 17th maybe, then you can withstand a loss. Take a loss, you drop down, and you just make it back up. But when you're sitting in those last 5, a loss usually guts you.
Yeah.
Now, it's going to be interesting to me what they do with Indiana. If, let's say Indiana loses Sunday to the number 2 team in the country on the road, but yet right now they're 12-2, 3-0 in the Big Ten. They've won, 7 straight games?
Something like that.
If they lose on the road to Michigan, do they drop out of the AP top 25?
I think it depends on how bad it is, to be honest with you. I mean, if they go in there and they lose by 25, 30 points, yeah, they'll drop out. But
Okay.
if it's within 10 points, 10, 12 points, I don't think they drop out. No.
I definitely don't think they should. We talked about this the other day. It cracks me up whenever a team loses to a higher seeded team, they drop them. I'm like, well, why should they drop? What the hell did you expect? An upset? They're at home. So, yeah, it would, unless they get hammered, which is possible from a Michigan team. They're very good. But we've got a lot more to get to. Todd Leary's on the program today. He's be in our last segment, so make sure you stay tuned. He'll be coming up soon. Indiana Sports Beat, back with more right after this.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat. Thanks a lot for taking us along here on this Friday into the first week of 2019. Just occurred to me as we're skirting through that. Hope your day is going great. Hit us up on the text line if you wish. Todd Leary's on the show today. That number is 812-269-6367. Indiana with a big win last night as they, not a big win, but just another win in the Big Ten as they go 3-0. Romeo Langford, a career night, 28 points. Doesn't say a lot, but we got him to talk a little bit last night, didn't we?
Yeah, they asked if it was his best game in an Indiana uniform thus far. Here's what he had to say.
Yeah, I felt like this was my best game so far, all around, even maybe on the defensive end too. I am getting a lot more comfortable, and now that Rob's out for a while with his little injury he has, that caused for me to have the ball more in my hand, and I'm comfortable with doing that.
That's considered a long answer for Romeo.
Oh, I'm telling you. I mean, and he's starting to speak a little louder into the microphone. Yeah, it's been like pulling teeth. He's not adapted. He's just now adapting to that as well. That's another thing that he's you'd think that someone who's been around people as much as he has, but I think he likes to just stay back out of the limelight. But also talked about coming out of the half. He just really kept the pace up and really seemed to push it.
Was there anything particularly that you were mindful of coming out of halftime in that regard?
I just wanted to pick up where I left off in the first half, whether that was attacking the rim and getting other people involved, and that's what I did to get us going in the second half.
Romeo Langford, a career night last night, 28 points as he leads Indiana over Illinois. Final score of that game, 73-65.
What was his career high before last night? 22?
22.
Yeah. Smash that.
Yeah. So I was obviously his best game as a Hoosier. But he just continues to look more and more comfortable. And he was hunting that rim last night more than he has up till now. You could just see every time that ball was in his hands, he was looking to score. Yeah. And that's a good sign, but he didn't force it. That's a great sign. I say every time it was in his hands. That's not fair to say. That's not true. Every time it was in his hands, and he could make it a possibility to score, he attempted to do so. But he didn't force anything. He didn't get himself in bad positions by getting out of control, where I did see Devontae Green do that once. He put up a shot that I was like, what? That I don't think hit anything. It's kind of like he does that once a game.
Oh, yeah.
It's just like he just kind of goes in out of control and just looks up and, where's the rim?
Was he the one that airballed the little floater? Or was
Yes.
that an Illinois guy? That was Devontae?
Yes.
Yeah.
It was like he
3
was like,
feet away and he airballed it.
Exactly. That I'm like, what? I'm like, how did that happen? How you do that?
Yeah, I just had to laugh at that one.
It was funny. Archie Miller also thought Romeo had a great game as well, of course.
Yeah, they asked him if he had challenged Romeo coming out of the half, with Romeo scoring the first 10 points of the second half, and then he also touches on Romeo's defense.
I mean, we wanted him to be more aggressive. Sometimes you got to get the ball in his hands against a team like this because he's traditionally not bringing it up, but we allowed him to bring it up a lot more, get the ball before we crossed half court a lot more, which allowed him to play with it in his hands, and that was a big change for us, just having a different guy coming off the screw, a different guy coming downhill on their big guys, and he was fantastic, I thought, in that role.
Obviously, he had 28 points, Romeo, but defensively, I guess, how have you seen him grow since maybe the start of the season until now? It seems like he's kind of really embraced that end of the floor as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think, once, you saw him sort of as a guy early on be a little bit more cautious defensively. Now I think you see a guy that's very confident in knowing what to do. He's got great talent and length, so he's going to be an excellent defender, and he's got so much more experience to keep gaining. But his size and his length and some of the things that he can do on the ball and challenging shots and whatnot, causes some problems. And he can guard 1, 2, or 3 for the most part if we want him to guard any perimeter guy. So he's evolving. He continues to do what we ask him to do in terms of getting better. Like I've said before, he's as coachable of a guy as we have on the team. So it's a credit to him and his work ethic.
Coach Archie Miller talking about Romeo and his antics last night with a career high of 28 points, leading the Indiana Hoosiers to a win. Juwan Morgan, the nice double-double, 15 and 10. Not a bad night. Other games in the Big Ten last night, Indiana's next opponent, Michigan, they knocked off Penn State 68-55. It was that team to the north, PU, beating Iowa 86-60. And the bigger win, Minnesota goes into the Kohl Center. Madison, Wisconsin knocks off the Badgers 59-52. Huge win for them, man. That's big resume builder.
What's the Purdue final, 86-60?
Is that what you told me?
I thought it was 86-70. Yeah, it was 70. Yeah, because Purdue was up by 26-27 all game.
86-70.
Iowa closed it up a little bit.
Oh, they got it to 16. That's nice. As Todd Leary said to me last week, that's cute. I'm see what he says to me today. Bowl, son of Manute Bowl, plays for Oregon. Phenomenal freshman, out for the season. Stress fracture in his foot. It's bad news.
Does that hurt, or does that help Romeo say he goes to the NBA draft?
Nope. No
think?
effect. No effect. Well, yeah.
Bowl has been listed ahead of him the whole time. I was just wondering if maybe an injury might have some NBA teams backing off of Bowl.
Now, see, normally a stress fracture wouldn't, just in and of itself. Someone like Bowl,
who's
7'2", reminds me of a former Kentucky player by the name of Sam Bowie. Only in the fact that
it's a blast from the past.
Well, Sam Bowie is someone who had a prolific collegiate career at Kentucky, but he got to the NBA and same with oh my gosh, dude that played with Mike Conley.
Greg Oden?
Greg Oden, same deal. They get to the NBA, and Sam Bowie just had that leg, those fractures that just could not get past him. And actually, I think he dealt with that in college, rather. But yeah, those big guys, man, those injuries, those type of injuries, that will scare you. So yeah, I think that it's not going to affect Romeo's decision because he's gone. I mean, I don't know this. It's not like I know this for fact. This is just in my opinion. There's no way he's not gone. He's listed between number 5 and number 10 on anybody's draft board. That's a lottery pick, boys and
Take
girls.
the money.
Nobody does it, hardly. That's like rarity that's ever happened. And this will not be one of those cases, unfortunately. But this helps him, I think you're right, and move up a little bit. Because as he continues to show by his play, how he attacks the rim, that he's a physical guard, that he can play physically, that he can withstand the bumping and the grinding. He's built to last, man.
Yeah.
So I think that Romeo's continuing to help himself, and I think that while his draft stock can't rise a whole lot, depending on which one you're looking at, I don't think he gets any higher than 5 because there's just too much talent out there. He's not the only one. It's not like he's the best player in America, but he is absolutely one of the best players in America.
Tim Tex then says, how about the alumni band filling in for the student band? Never heard of that before.
Man, I missed that. Didn't even know it would happen.
Really?
Till just now.
Now, I think they do that once a year over
Well,
over the holidays when the students are gone.
Students are gone.
Yeah.
But that's great.
Yeah, that's pretty cool because I mean, it's like riding a bike. They all remember the songs. They all can still read music. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I did not realize that. Daggone, it's a shame that I missed that. But no, pretty cool. But and Sunday, Indiana now goes to Ann Arbor, Michigan, take on the number 2 Wolverines. 4:30 on Sunday. Where are you watching the game? We're going to be at Bubba's 33.
That's right.
You might want to come out and hang. And we're going to give away a free lunch today from Bubba's, as a matter of fact. You need to tweet the answer to me, and my Twitter is @JimCoyleISB, and that stands for Indiana Sports Beat, of course, but @JimCoyleISB. Doesn't matter if you're listening to us live or if you listen to the podcast afterwards. Just go ahead and I'm going to draw it, and I will contact you back. So it's not a time thing, but it has to be in today. But I'm going to come up with a question here, and in our next break, I'll think of something to ask. But we're going to give away a lunch at Bubba's. So
we really need to remake Finally Friday to Free Lunch Friday. That's what we need to do.
Free Lunch Friday.
It flows, I'm telling you.
Well, I can't sing, so I can assure you that it will not be me doing that.
Yeah, that'll scare everyone away.
It'll be Bye Lunch Friday. Or I lost my lunch Friday listening to Jim sing. That's more like it. But Indiana on the road Sunday against Michigan, the Wolverines. Come up. Watch the game with us at Bubba's 33. I'm looking forward to that. It ought to be a heck of a time. Great sports weekend, the NFL, the playoffs, Saturday and Sunday. But I think some of the better games are on Saturday.
Yeah, I know the Colts and Texans play, and I think it's the Bears that play.
Definitely interested to see if the Colts can continue their role, man. They've been on it.
Seahawks, Cowboys.
Started out at 1-5 on the season. Now they're in the playoffs.
10-6.
How about them apples?
Yeah, Colts are a team. If I was in the NFL playoffs, I would not want to see the Colts pop up. I'll tell you that.
No, they're rolling right now. They're playing well. A lot of high school games this weekend as well. Big game down south, New Albany, Jeffersonville. WXVW listeners will be listening to that game. That's a huge one.
Yeah.
That's a big game. Big rivalry. Old school rivalry. Should be a great game, too.
Sure.
New Albany has had their way with that series of late. We'll see what happens post-Romeo. Jim Shannon taking his squad in there. They had a big win not too long ago. It's slipping my mind who they beat. Daggone it. Was it? Oh, man. Indianapolis School. When they played in that tournament, it was a big win.
Was it Roncalli?
Well, that's who Floyd Central beat.
Yeah.
And I feel bad that I'm losing. Anyway, they have lots of big wins. But it ought to be a great game. Looking forward to that. But Todd Leary's on the show today as well. So make sure you hit us up on the text line if you have any questions, comments for Todd, or just overall in general, or 812-269-6367. What's the spread on the Indiana game?
Michigan game? It wouldn't be out yet.
Oh, wait.
Yeah.
And then the Colts looking forward to that, to see if they can. A team like that is so dangerous because they weren't supposed to be there, and what all they have fought to get through to get there. Man, they're nothing but confidence and just a big old ball of confidence, and they're rolling. The Lady Huskies, UConn, they went down last night. Baylor Bears knocked off UConn last night. Doesn't happen very often.
I was about to say, I think that's maybe the fourth time I've heard that in my life.
Well, I can tell you, I wrote it down. I don't know where I wrote it, but 126-game winning streak. I think this was a non-conference regular season.
Yeah.
November 17th, 2014.
That's the last time they lost?
That would be the last time.
And they've had a long winning streak like that before as well.
Oh,
didn't they get...
They've got more winning streaks than I have T-shirts.
Yeah.
And I got a lot of T-shirts. Yeah, it's something. But Todd Leary's coming up on the show. Make sure you stay tuned. Indiana Sports Beat's back right after this.
If you want to get your day off to a good start, then stop at Billy Joe's Gas and Food Mart on Highway 150 in Floyd's Knobs. While you're filling your gas tank, you could fill your own tank with a hot breakfast or try one of Billy Joe's daily lunch special. Billy Joe's Gas and Food Mart opens at 5 a.m. and everything is made fresh daily. And if you bring your own mug, coffee is only 50 cents. And Billy Joe's also has free air. The best place to start your day is at Billy Joe's Gas and Food Mart on Highway 150 in Floyd's Knobs.
Today's guest is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, with hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer. Pizza, burgers, beer. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat here on this first Friday of 2019. Hope your week has been well. It's about to get better. We've got Todd Leary for you. Todd, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great. How are you today?
Great. You being a road warrior out there?
Say that again?
I said you being a road warrior today?
Oh, I am. I am on the road. I'm headed your direction right now.
Well, stop by and you can pick up lunch for me.
All right. Sounds good.
Indiana, man, back at it last night. Another rugged Big Ten game against a bottom feeder, Illinois, but one that they managed to get through and get the job done defensively and came out looking okay, I guess, at the end of the day.
Yeah, they did. They didn't get off to a very good start. I know watching the beginning of that game, it was a little bit of flashback and not seeing Finney not on the floor. Obviously, I think they had to take some time to get themselves settled into the offense, and that kind of tells you what a big part of everything he really is. And being a freshman, it's impressive what he's been able to come in there and kind of take that leadership role as a point guard on. But after the first 15 minutes or so of the game, I think they really got comfortable, and they got comfortable defensively. I mean, they had some good stops, and they were rotating well. I was pretty impressed after that start because you get down 10, 25 to 15, and you're one basket away from that thing being out of control for you. And they did a good job of getting stops. They didn't score 4 possessions in a row, down 10. And they held Illinois in that also. And so that could have gone to a 15, 17-point lead pretty easily. But they held on and defensively dug their heels in and did a good job, I think, of gaining control of the game. And the way they finished off the first half kind of led towards, I think everybody had the feeling starting that second half, Indiana would take control of the game and probably come out playing at home and win. And that's exactly what happened. And that's kind of how you got to dig through those ugly games where you get off to a bad start and you're able to come back and still come away with the victory. And that's something in years past that they've not done a great job of, but it's pretty impressed with them yesterday.
And I think it's a great point. And from a standpoint of when you are getting down, you're down 10, 11, and you're struggling, whether it's with your shot or where you're turning the ball over, whatever's going on, how difficult is it mentally to stay in that game defensively when you're going through those struggles on the other end of the court?
It is difficult. I mean, it's one of the it's one of the things you learn as you get older. You know, you don't panic and you don't start taking bad shots or quick shots, and you don't try to get it all back at one time. It's possession by possession. That's one of the things Coach Knight really pounded into us, was getting us to understand how important every possession was. And, you know, that's why a lot of the old school IU fans that were Bob Knight descendants, I mean, they hate the turnovers and hate when the team gets going too fast. And that's kind of that mentality. And one of the things that we valued was taking care of the basketball, and turnovers can kill you, especially when you're in a situation where you get yourself down. Now, obviously they're bad all the time, but when you're already down by 10 and you turn the ball over a couple times in a row and that lead goes to 14 or 16, you know, 14 or 16 is a almost insurmountable lead. Guys don't come back from that, or teams don't come back from that very often. You know, 10, I think every team's down 10 at some point in time in games nowadays. But that mental hurdle, it's tough to come back when you made mistakes like that, and defensively is exactly where you've got to pick it up.
And on the turnover side, Illinois is one of the top teams in the country at forcing people to turn the ball over. And to me, with 15 turnovers Indiana had last night, I don't think that's that bad against a team that is so notorious for doing that, especially when Indiana ended up forcing Illinois into 21 turnovers, which they actually produced 22 points off of. So they actually turned the tables on them in that regard last night.
Yeah, they did. And, you know, that's one of the things, like, you can't really say, hey, well, we turned them over more than we turned the ball over. You would have gotten yourself in trouble with that argument with the coach I had. But
I'm sure.
15 turnovers is, you know, if I want to say in today's world you can live with it, and that's that's the difference between today and a long time ago. But when you've got the shot clock that's shorter, you got more possessions, there's more opportunity to turn it over, and that's kind of where you kind of have to accept, you know, 12 to 16 turnovers kind of is the standard that you can win with in today's world. And with the more possessions, that's probably makes more sense than it did back in my day. But, you know, these guys, they're doing a good job of gaining control of the game and playing at their tempo. Like, I was pretty impressed with that yesterday. When they were down by 10, they didn't speed up, and they didn't all of a sudden change their approach to everything. And that's without Finney on the floor. And I'm giving him a ton of credit, and I really believe he's that important to him. But him not being in there and them still being able to do that, I think shows, yeah, Juwan Morgan has great leadership, but I think some of the younger guys are starting to pick up on what it takes to win and how you handle certain situations. Obviously, Romeo is a guy who doesn't get flustered. You know, he kind of always has that J. Edwards stoic face, and you can never tell if he's upset or in a great mood. But he's just kind of that little older, mature type attitude, and I think it's kind of rubbing off. The team has a good mental preparation and a good mental situation they're sitting in right now.
Bill texted in. He pointed out a couple of things that Indiana's averaging almost 40 points in the second half for the season. Last night they scored 41 right on their average. They're doing everything that they've been doing all year long, and one of those things that they've been doing all year is winning. Is this a formula that, as tough as it is for people to watch sometimes with the missed three-pointers and the close games, but kind of coming out on top, is that something that this team is probably just that's who they are?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you know, I do think they have the ability to shoot the ball from the three-point line, obviously better than what they are, and I think later in the Big Ten season they will. I know your legs get tired late in the season and get worn down a little bit, but these guys are also gaining a ton of experience and learning how to, how to play big minutes in a physical, tough game. And I really think that throughout the Big Ten, they'll continue to shoot the ball a little bit better throughout the year. The thing that scares me is free throws. That's a thing that can lose games for you immediately. And it's also a mental thing. And once it starts going bad, it can get worse. But this team, they've got a little different look to them. They've got a different feel for how they win games, and it's kind of nice because they've won some ugly games. They'll have games where they come out and shoot the ball well. Hopefully against a team like Michigan Sunday, they're going to need to shoot the ball well. You're not going to win that game in an ugly game.
Absolutely.
But they have that ability to come out and make those shots. And, you know, if they do, they're going to be a tough out for anyone. and they'll have a chance at being in every single game. The shooting is just a plus for them. I love the fact that they're able to win right now without shooting the ball that great.
Yeah, because if it ever comes around, to me, that's what makes them. That would make them an elite team at that point.
For sure.
And speaking of the 3-point shooting, back in on the teams you played for Coach Knight, the 3-point shot was something that you guys used to your advantage, but you used it in a different way. How do you see that the 3-point shot for, say, this team as to the ones you played on, which was a lot more deliberate in getting better shots?
Well, they, we probably had 4 guys on the floor who shot over 40% for their career from the 3-point line at all times. I mean, we had a bunch of guys who were known as shooters. So, I would say we probably had more options. Romeo, he tends to make big shots when it's needed. He tends to make 3-pointers when they're needed. But I would not classify him as a great 3-point shooter. I mean, I wouldn't have said that in high school, and I wouldn't say it now. I think that he is, I think he's adequate. I think he's a great scorer, but I wouldn't say he's a great 3-point shooter. And so I think this team driving the ball to the basket and making that their MO is kind of what they're going to continue to be known for. But driving it and kicking it out, like, I don't know what it is about it, but 3-point percentages always seem to go up when it's kicked out from the inside, whether that's a pass to the post or whether it's a drive in the lane and kicked out. And I think the team will continue to learn that and get better at that throughout the season. They're proving right now they can get to the basket. Now, if they can get to the basket and kick it out and guys can make shots, it'll be another weapon that they have. And I think that's something you learn as you get older. It took me a while to learn it, and I know these guys are way ahead of me in that position, but they're learning it throughout the year, and they'll continue to drive the ball and score the ball well.
Absolutely. If Romeo was a great 3-point shooter, he'd be the number 1 player in America, hands down, right now.
Yep.
He's playing so well.
Right.
And speaking of Romeo, 28 points last night. He seems like he is getting more and more comfortable. He was really hunting that rim last night. I mean, from the word go, once they got past that little slow start, he really seemed to settle down and just was hunting that basket.
Yep, he's smooth and good, and there's just so many positives that you can use describing how he plays. But he gives them a guy who, when it gets into a situation that you're down 10 or you're down 6 or whatever it is, he can go get 3 or 4 baskets for you. And I'm telling you, I know we've done this almost every week on the show, but he is so much like Jay Edwards from the standpoint of he got you big baskets. And his 28 points, there were very meaningful 28 points. It wasn't like it was junk points at the end. And he does that every game. Like, his points always seem to be meaningful and they're scored at the right time. Juwan Morgan is kind of in that same category. And, Romeo's a special talent. I mean, we're lucky as Indiana fans to be able to watch him, and it would be awesome to be able to watch him for 2 years, but if he keeps scoring 28 every game, that's going to be tough for us to do.
Yeah, absolutely, especially if he gets a 3-point shot going along with it.
Yep. But the NBA teams, they think they can teach him that. They don't care. They just want him to have the ability to be able to shoot, which he has. And they think they'll be able to teach him, and they're probably right.
And I was watching him as I watched at the game last night, and just watching him attack that rim. He's a very physical guard, and I think that's one of the things that helps him so much. He's not afraid of the contact. He's not afraid of going into that fray, no matter who's in there.
Yep, no doubt. And it's nice to have that as it was kind of Calbert's thing when I played. I mean, Calbert was a guy who, he wasn't a great 3-point shooter. He was pretty good. He wasn't great, but man, getting to the basket, he was unstoppable. And he kind of was just smooth. And, I think you see this team has a couple guys that are kind of that same way. It's never a bad thing when your team is known for scoring a lot of baskets in the 2-point range and inside the lane, because, your percentages are always higher with that. And it's tough for teams to stop without getting in foul trouble. So that's one of the benefits Indiana has. They've just got to start making their free throws.
Talking with Todd Leary, former Hoosier great, of course. Sunday, they go on the road to Ann Arbor. Of course, the Big Ten season is going to be a blitzkrieg anyway, but, man, this is going right to the chopping block here. The number 2 team in the country, Michigan, and they're playing pretty well right now.
Yeah, they kind of are in that position where they have played good from the tip off of the season. I mean, they were kind of in mid-season form November 1st, and that they've kind of caught a lot of people off guard. They play very hard defensively. They shoot the ball well. They drive it and get to the rim. They've got athletic guys defensively. I mean, they have a great makeup of a team, and they're fun to watch, and they seem like they get along pretty well. Their coach is a good guy, and they like playing for him. So that's a recipe for it's going to be a disaster for a lot of other teams. Going on the road, you know how it is. I mean, we were never allowed to say this back when the Coach Knight days, but this is not a game you expect to win. Like, if Indiana won this game, it would be a huge bonus. But if they lose it, you don't walk away from it saying, "Oh, the season's over. We can't beat Michigan." You just move on to the next game, and that's kind of the way things happen nowadays. If they won, it would be awesome. Hopefully they give themselves a chance and that opportunity, because they're going into an environment that Michigan is going to try. They're going to try to beat Indiana by 40 from the beginning, and they've done that a couple times in the last few years, and this Sunday won't be any different.
Obviously, Romeo is going to be a factor that Michigan is looking at, trying to not stop him, slow him down, especially with Rob Finney not being there. And that's got to really hurt a lot more on the road in a game in a situation like this, not having someone like Rob Finney in there.
Yep, I've become a huge Rob Finney fan, and he just I feel better when he's on the floor, and that's a great compliment for a point guard to have. It is just everybody feels more comfortable when you're out there, because they feel like things are under control, and they feel like the offense is going to run as efficiently as it can, and the defense is going to put themselves and rotate properly and put themselves in the position to make stops. And, it's a big loss not having him, especially in a game like this. I think it would be great for his development, going into a place that's going to be as loud as it'll be. It's going to be a tough environment. They've got good guards. He would obviously be a big help, but I think that the other people have to step up. I mean, this is a game where you need everybody to play well, and you need somebody to come off the bench and, have an extraordinary game. The good part is Indiana has guys that can do that. I mean, I think it's time for the Fitzner and those guys to step up and have a big game and have the kind of game that we know they can play. And everybody's going to have to play well in this game. Romeo's not going to come out and win this game on his own. Jawan's not going to win it on his own. Those guys are going to come out, and you're going to have five guys on the floor at all times, which is going to include the bench. You're going to have guys that all come in and make a positive contribution in order to win a game like that.
Sounds good. Todd Leary, I can't thank you enough, man. I look forward to it each and every week. Hope you've had a great week and a happy new year.
Yep, it's been awesome. I appreciate it. It's fun to talk to you.
Look forward to it, man. Have a safe travels today, Todd.
Yep, I'll do it. Thanks.
Thank you. Todd Leary, former Hoosier great, joining us today. Hey, we're going to give away a free lunch at Bubba's. You got to you got to tweet it to me on Twitter at Jim Coyle ISB. And it's not a time thing. I'm going to draw. So however many of the people are, I'm just going to write the names down and pull one out. But what was Romeo's career high before last night? That's the question.
Nice and easy.
Yeah, just hit me up on Twitter at Jim Coyle ISB. I'm going to draw it out. So and this is it's not a hurry. It's not for today. So we'll give all day long, because there's a lot of people listen to the show after the original live broadcast on the podcast. So
and that
we'll
behooves
give everybody a chance.
And that behooves the people who are going to listen later, because we actually said it during this show.
That's why. That's why I'm doing just that. Doing this, that. But look forward to the big game. Thanks a lot to Todd for joining us. Great week this week, as always. Great start to 2019. A lot of things going on this weekend. The Colts have a playoff game. Looking forward to that. Lots of great high school basketball. If you're on WXVW, you can listen to Jeffersonville, New Albany. Huge old rivalry game. That's big. Looking forward to that. Of course, Indiana, Michigan on Sunday. The Colts, 4 playoff games this week in the NFL. 2 on Saturday, 2 on Sunday. Looking forward to all of those. And then, of course, the national championship on Monday night.
Yep.
We got a lot going on, man.
That's a good time of the year to be a sports fan.
Well, see, but that's only – and the good thing is that after all this, college basketball keeps rolling on and really starts picking up steam. It's after college basketball comes to its conclusion, that goes into that little depressive funk for a little while.
Yeah, you got baseball.
What? Baseball? You can't watch baseball
That's what
after
I'm
watching the Final Four.
That's what I'm saying. You get that depressive funk, baseball comes in.
Yeah, and it depresses you more.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, looking forward to it. Hey, make sure you, if you're looking for a place to watch the game on Sunday, 4:30, we'll be at Bubba's. Bubba's 33. Checking out the Hoosiers and the Wolverines, so looking forward to that. And then, of course, send that tweet in. What was Romeo's career high before last night? Send that in at Jim Coyle ISB. That's pretty much going to wrap it up for us. For Justin Kalen, I'm Jim Coyle, and I will see you on the radio.